We are connected to something all the time, something that is going, and whatever we're connected to, we're going to experience more of. Now, I toss around words like wealth and rich and prosperous, and I use those interchangeably, but I'm not talking just money. Prosperity encompasses so much more than money. I've known really wealthy people who lived in lack and scarcity. Hello, prosperity seeker, and welcome to another episode of the Prosperity Approach. I'm your host, Allyson Chavez. I am the creator of the Prosperity Approach, and I am here to help you with tips and tricks and inner game strategies that will make your outer game strategies actually work. And if they're already working for you, learning the proper inner game strategies are actually going to skyrocket the outer game strategies you actually have going on. It's kind of like a rocket fuel. And so today I wanted to talk about a particular strategy that I used in my life when I was completely connected to lack and scarcity, and what actually got me connected to prosperity. And it's the story of prosperity almonds. So about 10 years ago, I was proud of the fact that I was cheap. I called it frugality. I called it responsible. What I really was completely connected to lack and scarcity and not enoughness, and I was cheap. And in the summer of 2011, spring, my brother passed away very, very suddenly, which kind of acted as a catalyst to just life really falling apart. And at the time in my life, I was working like 3 different jobs. We could barely have enough to make ends meet. We could never get ahead. Those were the beliefs that I was running. That was the experience that I was having in life. And summertime was always extra lean for our family because my husband and I both had seasonal jobs. We were crossing guards. And yes, you actually get paid money as a crossing guard. And for a part-time job, it actually pays really, really well. It ends, of course, when school's not in. You don't get paid for the summer because you're not working. And we had no money. I was angry at God. I was angry at life. I was in an immense amount of grief losing my brother. And I was not in a good place. And so I created what I fondly now refer to as the summer of no fun for my family. We didn't have money coming in, really. And so we were not going to do anything fun. And I became the fun police. And there was we were not going to eat out. We were not eating meat unless it was just like ground turkey every once in a while for spaghetti. And we were going to have eggs, and we were going to have homemade bran muffins, and we were going to have pancakes and waffles 5 times a week. And it was just all of this lack and all of this scarcity. And bless my family's heart, they were like, well, just let mom do what mom is going to do. And I made it rough. I made it rough for me. I made it rough for them because I lived in so much fear and I'd let money dominate everything. Now, we shopped at a store that has a bulk section. And at the time, they had one of my favorite candies there, and they're called chocolate-covered almonds. And they're not your typical chocolate-covered almonds. Like, it was high quality chocolate that just instantly melts in your mouth, right on your tongue as soon as you put it in your mouth. And lots of layers of that chocolate. They were big almonds, high quality almonds. And it was just like, oh, it was so good. And up until that time, we would, on a fairly regular basis, just go to the bulk section and just get ourselves a little bag of chocolate covered almonds, and we'd enjoy them, Jeremy and me. And sometimes we'd share them with the kids. And most of the time we'd share them with the kids. And we just really loved these almonds. Well, those were out of the question since we were living in lack and scarcity in the summer of no fun. And so I remember Jeremy asking when we were grocery shopping together, hey, can we get a small bag of almonds? And oh man, bless that man's heart. Like, I about ripped his head off. And I was like, no, We can't afford those. We're getting eggs and flour and cheap syrup. Actually, we didn't skimp on the syrup. We did get Mrs. Butterworth. So at least I would allow that. But I was like, absolutely not. We're not doing anything. This is back when Redbox was really popular. So I was like, we're not getting Redbox. We're just watching our own VHS movies. I mean, oh, ladies, I just made it unnecessarily difficult for our family that summer. So we get through the summer somehow without having any sort of fun, quite honestly. Lots of eggs, lots of spaghetti. I do love spaghetti though, but no garlic bread. Heavens no to the garlic bread. I think I was even making my own bread that summer, if I remember correctly. Like I was all kinds of like pioneer at womaning it, but not because I wanted to be a pioneer, but because I was so dang cheap and let money ruin and rule everything. So we get to the end of the summer and we start our crossing guard jobs back up again. We get some more money coming in and I'm feeling like I can breathe a little bit better. And we went grocery shopping again. And Jeremy said, hey, can we get some almonds now? We got some more money coming in. And I said, I will allow it. No, I was probably like, all right, but just a tiny bag. I do remember being very specific, like a tiny bag. Like we're not even going to, we'll fill it up maybe a fifth of the way. Like we each get 3 almonds and that's it. A little bit more than that. But I mean, I was pretty rigid about how much I allowed. And so we got this really small bag of almonds and we go to the checkout. We buy our groceries, including the almonds. And I remember taking the receipt and I said out loud, let's see what the damage these almonds did. And I looked down at that receipt and it was $1.89. And I stopped in my tracks. I felt embarrassment just wash over me. I felt some shame wash over me because I had thought about my behavior over the entire summer, over $1.89. It didn't make a dent in our grocery budget at all. It was $2. $2. And it was enough that I could have had a few almonds. We could have taken it home to our family of 4, and all of us could have had this experience every single week throughout the summer. But because I was so tight-fisted and I was so scared to let go of money, I denied my family and myself a very beautiful, rich, prosperous experience that didn't ultimately end up making any sort of a difference to our budget. And I remember thinking at that moment, never again. Never again am I going to be so tight and so crotchety and so Scroogey with my money that I behave this way toward money. And, you know, bless Jeremy's heart, bless my family's heart. Like they just went with it. They didn't give me any sort of pushback. We like breakfast for dinner. And so like the kids love that we got pancakes all the time. We do pancakes from scratch, and like they made the best of it, probably because they didn't know any better, because I was always like, no, we can't afford that. No, we're not going to buy that. We don't have the money for that. Put that back. Every time we take you shopping, it costs us twice as much as if we leave you at home. I mean, like that was me, and that was the language that came out of my mouth all the time. But that was a real defining moment for me. It was a very pivotal moment for me. And I decided, like, I'm not going to let those little pleasures of life, I'm not going to deny myself those anymore for the sake of anything. We could have had such a fabulous experience, just sharing a few almonds each and just talking and laughing and giggling together and watching a movie we've watched 36 times already and just enjoyed being together. And that's what I decided in that moment that I wanted to create. Now, in that moment, I didn't know much about universal law. I certainly hadn't created the prosperity approach, so I had no idea what that was. I really didn't know how to live connected to prosperity. I didn't understand how energy worked or frequency worked or any of that. I just knew that I had created unnecessary struggle and suffering in my life, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I started playing with this idea of prosperity almonds. And what makes me feel rich, even though I told everybody we were poor. I mean, this is a time in my life when we would get paid every 2 weeks. And I would declare when we would get that paycheck, we're rich for 10 minutes. And we were rich for 10 minutes. And then I started paying the bills. And then I started feeling poor. And not just poor, but resentful and irritated that money wasn't there and we didn't have enough and we worked so hard and we tried so hard and I got really, really victimy about it. But that experience really was the catalyst to just pop me into a better way of thinking, a better way of being without even realizing it. I just knew that I'd made it harder than it actually needed to be. So it started with almonds. And I said, you know what? Every week we are going to get some prosperity almonds so that we can be reminded that we're rich, no matter what is going on in our circumstances. And so we did. We would get a little bag and we'd share them with the kids. And I'm like, oh, these prosperity almonds are so great. And we started calling them prosperity almonds. When Jeremy would make the shopping list, he'd put prosperity almonds on there. And that's just what we started relating to. And as I played more with this and just really thought more about this and learned more about how the universe is actually structured and how energy and frequency and vibration really work, we are connected to something all the time, something that is going, and whatever we're connected to, we're going to experience more of. And I really wanted to be connected to experiences that were wealthy to me. Now, I toss around words like wealth and rich and prosperous, and I use those interchangeably, but I'm not talking just money. Prosperity encompasses so much more than money. I've known really wealthy people who lived in lack and scarcity. And so money has very little to do with the level of prosperity you experience in your life. Now, what I have found about money is it's a very powerful tool, and money gives you options and it opens doors, and money is a magnifier. It makes you more of who you already are. So it's nothing to fear. It's nothing to shame. It's nothing to make it mean what it doesn't mean. It's neutral. It's energy, just like everything else. And so every time, I'm going back to almonds here. Every time we would have these almonds, I would just think, oh man, I'm rich. Oh man, we are wealthy. We got $3.50 worth of almonds this time. And I remember telling my family, oh man, what if we got like 40 pounds of almonds or $40 worth of almonds? Because they were like, $4.50 a pound at that time. They're a whole lot more now. But I was like, what if we got $50 or $100 worth of prosperity almonds? And that was so big to me at the time. But every time that I had them, I was connected to that feeling of prosperity and that feeling of wealth. And then over the course of the next 10 years, when we made a lot of money and I didn't feel prosperous, and then we lost most of our money, and then I started feeling prosperous because things started clicking, we were back to eating eggs and eating pancakes and eating muffins and not eating a whole lot of meat and no chicken. And we're not going to have milk for dinner. We're going to have water for dinner. Like we were back there. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to make a totally different experience this time. And so even though we were eating those things, I would always make sure we got a package of sausage. That was my favorite maple flavored sausage because sausage was $3 and $3 was not going to make a difference to our budget. And this meant we were rich. And sometimes we got orange juice and other times we got chocolate milk. That was something that was just a little bit, it connected us to that feeling of being wealthy and prosperous. And it ended up really helped smoothing out a really, really rocky time because we could grab onto these things that represented how we thought we would feel when we had money that supported the lifestyle we wanted, the dreams we wanted, and the goals that we had. And so I've actually incorporated that into my life. And as I have continued to up level, it's really interesting what comes to help me sustain that feeling of prosperity and wealth and richness and that everything always works out for me and all of those things that I really want to experience every single day. So we started with almonds and then we moved into things like fresh cut flowers. Jeremy always wanted to buy me flowers. When we would go to Costco, he would always stop at the flower section for years. And he'd be like, will you let me buy you flowers? And I was like, no, that is not practical. Those are $14. And I would rather eat out if we were going to waste money like that. That's where I was at the time. And eventually he stopped asking if he could get me flowers. And he never, I think he tried to surprise me a couple times with flowers, but I wasn't very appreciative of them because I was like, well, that money could have gone somewhere else, because it was always like, I was so afraid to let go of money, because if we let go of money on something we wanted, what if money wasn't there when we actually needed it? Which is not a prosperous way to view money, but that's where I was. And so as I grew my wealth consciousness, I started looking at those flowers when we would go to Costco. And there's a particular brand of flower. I think they're Gerber daisies, but they're Dr. Seuss flowers. So they're in really, really bold colors. So like totally injected with dye, and they have purple and green and blue and bright, vibrant yellows and oranges. And I love those flowers. They're so much fun. They're whimsical. They represent fun. They made me feel feminine. And so I made it a point to start buying flowers every time or every other time that we were at Costco, because that meant we were rich. That meant we were prosperous, and it connected me to that feeling of prosperity. There were times we would buy Lindt chocolate. I think it's Lindt brand. It's a dark chocolate, and it's called Intense Orange. And it has orange peel and slivered almonds throughout it. And it's a dark chocolate. And I'm not a dark chocolate fan, but this I am. And it's, heaven forbid, $4.50 for a chocolate bar. But I savor that, and it takes me months literally to eat it, because I put it in my closet and then I forget about it. And then I'm like, oh, there it is. And then I'll break off a piece and just enjoy it for those few moments. But we started where we were, not where we wanted to be. And that's what I really want to impress upon you. Like, start where you're at. What are some fun, frivolous things that you never allow yourself to purchase because it's not practical, it's not responsible, but it has to fit within your current budget. All right. So that is a ground rule. A lot of people will take this inner game strategy, and they'll be like, well, rich people buy really fancy cars, so I'm going to buy a really fancy car because I'm a rich person and I'm going to identify as a rich person. But you don't know how to pay for it. You don't really have a way to pay for it. And you end up going into debt for it, and it just really slams you right into scarcity. So it totally negates the whole purpose of this exercise. So it has to fit within your current budget. You cannot go into debt for it. You can't take out a loan for it. It's got to fit within your current budget. So start where you are, not where you want to be. We started right where we were. Now, I get a lot of comments from the people who watch my videos on YouTube that they love the paint on my wall. They're like, your paint goes so well with your hair. Did you plan that? And actually, no, I didn't plan that. But here's the thing about that paint. It's a custom color. It's called Maui water. When we went to Maui, I took so many pictures of the water. And every time I looked at that, it connected me back with Maui. And I wanted to be surrounded by that. So I took a picture, and there's this really cool color wheel where it will actually like take out the colors and it will mix them and then give the code. And I went to Home Depot and they mixed up this paint for me. I put it on my wall. And it was probably, I don't know, $30, maybe $50 worth of paint. It wasn't $800 worth of paint. I know that it was a low amount for paint, but to come in here in my office where it feels like a sanctuary, and it connects me to Maui. It reminds me of Maui and the experiences that we had there. And that is prosperity to me. And you want to be connected to those things you want to experience more of all the time. We've repainted our entire main floor. We did a remodel a couple of years ago. And so the colors are colors that I love. We got rid of the beige. We got rid of the neutral. I wanted a pop of color in my whole house because that reminds me that we're rich and that we're prosperous and we live in prosperity. This is a surprisingly difficult exercise to do because we are so used to denying what we actually want for the sake of practicality that we won't allow ourselves to do it. So I challenge you and I invite you to pick this technique up and this strategy, see how you feel with it. I had a client years ago who was in a lot of struggle and in a lot of lack. And I said, what don't you ever allow yourself to buy at the grocery store? And she said, oh, that's easy, name brand shampoo. And I was like, well, there's your assignment, name brand shampoo. You got to buy Dove or you got to buy Pantene or whatever that is. And you'd have thought that I told her that she now has to go build her own mansion. It triggered her so much. There's no way I can do that. We're barely making ends meet now. Like, it caused an enormous amount of resistance in her because of of how she viewed money at the time. And so if you find some resistance being kicked up in you, it's okay. It's got to fit within your budget. But remember, the intention you have behind this is connecting you to prosperity. It's connecting you to wealth. It's going to connect you. It's a physical connection to what you want to experience more of. When we did the Great Thought Experiment in 2018, and it led us to Hawaii, while we were there, we were in this little shop and I found this bracelet. And it's just a very thin gold wire bracelet. And it's bent in the shape of a wave, of an ocean wave. And I said to Jeremy, that's what I want. And I want you to give it to me for Christmas. And that's my Christmas present. And it was $30. And $30 was a lot of money to us in 2018. And yet we were in Hawaii, but there was a whole set of miracles that got us to Hawaii. And that's what I wanted, because I wanted to be connected to prosperity. I wanted to be connected back to Hawaii all the time. Whatever you want to experience more of. It could be a loofah sponge and bath and body soap and shower gel that smells like coconuts. It doesn't matter how much it is. I have a perfume that I love that I think was $15. And so it's not about how much money you spend. It's about the feeling that you have and the experience you have when you're connected to it. Now, if it's a piece of chocolate or if it's a restaurant that you have to sit down and order your meal rather than look up at the menu on the wall and order your meal, then take a picture of the menu or take a picture of the meal or keep the receipt. I'd rather that you took a picture of the meal though, and then put it as your screensaver, your wallpaper. Actually, go back to 2002 and print it out and put it on your wall where you see it all the time so that you will remember that feeling. It is an enormously powerful exercise that will help shift you out of lack and scarcity and connect you with prosperity and abundance and more than enough and joy and laughter and like those light things, that expansion that we are all constantly called to do and that we're wired to do. For goodness sake, if you want to get both pairs of shoes and it's in your budget, then get both pairs of shoes. Give yourself permission to want what it is you want and have that great intention. This is not about you being materialistic. This is not about you throwing a tantrum so that you get what you want. It is a very deliberate and very intentional way that you can grow your wealth consciousness and stay connected to that higher frequency of expansion and joy and prosperity and wealth and what that looks like and feels like to you. I hope this is helpful. I would love to hear what your prosperity almonds are for you and what you have chosen as your symbolism, what symbolizes to you that you live in prosperity and that you are wealthy. The way you're going to do that is hop over into my Facebook group. It's called the Prosperity Experience. Get yourself in there, post in there that you want to play the Prosperity Almond Experiment game. That's a really long, complicated title. How about the Prosperity Experiment? And what it is that you're using to represent prosperity to you. I'm always looking for more ideas because it's the simple things. It really is the simple things that connect you to that. Guess what? It's also the grandiose things. I have jewelry now that connect me to that next level of prosperity. If it's a new car and it's in your budget, we bought a new car. It was in our budget, and that represents that next level of prosperity to me as well. So make sure you keep it in your budget. Come share it with us over in the Prosperity Experience. Would love to see you there. Would love to connect you there and give you even more practical inner game strategies that act as rocket fuel to your outer game strategies and help them actually work. Thanks so much for being here. Until next time, remember, prosperity becomes you.